I'm Atra El-Nashar in Washington. A handful of states have suspended their state gas tax to give drivers some relief. And in Congress, some lawmakers are working to do the same on a federal level. President Trump says he's on board with the idea as energy prices are a top focus of his China trip. The leaders of the world's two largest economies have no shortage of disagreements. But when it comes to the ability for ships to pass through this indispensable shipping lane in the Middle East, there's no daylight between them.
He'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open.
President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping came out of a 2-hour meeting in agreement. The Strait of Hormuz needs to be open. 20% of the world's oil depends on it.
China gets about a third of its energy needs from the Gulf.
Without a remedy to the practical shutdown of the strait by Iran and in turn the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports, prices just keep rising.
There's some days where I'm about $100 at the pump.
The White House now pushing for a suspension of the federal gas tax, a move that would require Congress to act.
It's a conversation that I think we're willing to have.
The national average gas price Thursday reached $4.53, according to AAA. That's a 52% increase from the $2.98 average we saw just before the war started. U.S. drivers pay 18.4 cents in federal tax for every gallon of gas they pump, and 24.4 cents per gallon of diesel.
How long are you going to suspend that tax for?
Till it's appropriate.
Saving Americans money at the pump comes at a big price. A 3-month pause would add $10.5 billion to the federal deficit. $21 billion if it lasts 6 months, according to the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. The gas tax generates revenue for the Highway Trust Fund.
If we suspend the gas tax, just know it's going to be that much longer before those road improvements that we all want to see happen come to fruition.
Another part of the debate, how much of the savings from a gas tax holiday actually gets passed to the customer? Assuming it all did, and based on the average gas price, someone with a vehicle that takes 16 gallons would save about $2.94 on a full tank. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
President Trump's meeting with China's President Xi Jinping does come as Beijing faces growing outrage for its persecution of Christians, targeting underground churches and pastors who've been arrested and held prisoner. Joining us to discuss is former ambassador and U.S. senator, as well as author of China's War on Faith, Sam Brownback, along with Grace Jen Drexel, whose father, Pastor Ezra Jen, who founded Zion Church, currently remains detained in China. Welcome to you both, and thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jan.
Ambassador, your book exposes China's campaign of just brutal torture and imprisonment of people of faith. Explain the CCP's goal here and why this is one of the greatest threats to Western civilization and, quite frankly, our own liberty here in America.
It's control. They see people of faith as the most likely basis for their being overthrown all long term. And you know what, you look at it, the Chinese people are very spiritual people. You've got the fastest growing Christian community in the world is in the country of China. And they probably are looking at that saying, we don't like that, we don't want that. And now you're seeing them go at the Christian community in particular, but it's all communities, it's Buddhist, it's Muslims, across the board, because they want control and domination. And they use that then, the techniques they develop in China, through their satellite countries throughout the world, to go at these faith communities.
Right, and so communism can remain in power so that the ones at the top can remain in power over the ones that are there, that they're ruling over. Grace, I know the president said he does plan to talk with President Xi about your father, a pastor who founded one of the largest churches there. He has been imprisoned. Can you walk us through what happened to him and what your family's been going through?
Yes, my father, Pastor Ezra Jin, has been in prison since October of 2025, along with 17 of his colleagues, for doing nothing but leading one of the largest churches that is independent from the Chinese Communist Party, Zion Church. Our church has been operating online and offline, so the crime that they put onto his is illegal use of information online. But even that, you can see, you ask, why is worshiping online, just reading the Bible, sermons and songs illegal? And they won't be able to tell you.
And you grew up in China. So how did your family become Christians?
Yes. So my father actually became Christian first. He was a student at one of the best university in China, Beijing University, at the time of 1989, the Tiananmen student protest, and he had such but his whole worldview was shattered after the Tiananmen Square incident, and after that he looked for meaning and he found meaning in Christ, just like many Christians all across the world. And since then, he's been wanting to share that hope and that love to the people of China.
Yeah, and I know very much. I know a lot about your father, and I've read up a lot on him as well. I know he came to America, and then he went back to China because people there begged him to come back to be their pastor again. So he essentially risked his own life to go back and continue to share the gospel. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And I'm just so grateful for this opportunity also to be on the panel with Ambassador Brownback, because there's so many stories like mine that we can't share. We can't have time to go into details, but his book really highlights so much of the everyday stories of many Christians like my family. My father is actually not in the story, but we could see like so many parallels with so many of the profiles that he highlights. So my father too, he went back to China just because, again, for his faith, he felt like his flock was asking for him, and he had this just this deep sadness thinking that he was away from them. So he went back knowing that this could eventually happen one day.
Christianity, as Sam mentioned, really growing there in China, despite the efforts of the communist government to control everything. Millions right now turning to the gospel. Why is that?
Well, I think part of it is that many people no longer have something to believe in anymore. One of the saying that we heard is a lot of Chinese thought that they were, after Cultural Revolution, no one believed in socialism anymore. But after people thought that they were unhappy because they were poor, but now many people became wealthy and they were still unhappy. So they didn't know what that missing piece was. And again, this is a very human nature problem. Many people are just searching for meaning and what something beyond their everyday existence. And so many people turn to Christianity and have a really deep and personal relationship with Christ. And I think like most Christians, they don't become Christians thinking that one day they'll go to jail. They become Christians because they've been changed by God's love. And unfortunately in China, that faith is now putting them in prison.
Ambassador Brownback, why do you think, you mentioned earlier that there are millions right now in China who are very spiritual and really looking for, what Grace was talking about. Why is that, do you think, at this point?
It's the search for meaning. It's the inherent search within each and every one of us that we look at, and why are we here and what are we doing? And when you make a lot of money and you're thinking, okay, now I've achieved it, I'm there, and it's not there. And communism treats everybody as strictly an economic entity to be controlled. There's no space for a spirituality or a finding of a higher meaning. And it's the Achilles heel of communism, because people inherently desire that. What is it really about for me? And they just want that search and that meaning, and they find it in Jesus. The Tiananmen Square massacre actually led to a huge revival in China, and there were many pastors that came out of that because they were looking for meaning to change the government. It didn't happen. They got crushed by it. They searched somewhere else, and they found Jesus.
Grace, what do you want President Trump to say to President Xi about your father and others still detained there?
Yeah. I was so surprised and so shocked when I first heard that the president had promised to mention my father with General Secretary Xi Jinping at this upcoming summit. It was the hope that we've not had since my father's detention. And I know that it's going to still be a long process. And I hope and pray that there will be a miracle and there will be a softening of hearts by both the leaders. I just want my father released and back with us in the U.S. And so we hope that the conversation goes well and that there is a softening of heart from both of the leaders.
All right. Grace Jen Drexel, and former ambassador and U.S. Senator and author of China's War on Faith, Sam Brownback. Thank you both for joining us. God bless you both.
Thank
you so much.